As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Oh, yeah, we are back. It's Crunch Time Sports with Jeff Booner and Lucas. It is Thursday, June 12th. And Boone, even in the offseason, a lot of stuff going on right now, man.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Risdon is blessing the people with what he dropped last night after our show, which you and Klotz held it down. Appreciate y'all. But Jeff Risdon dropped a nuclear bomb out of nowhere. Now we have good content to talk about. Brad Holmes went on Chris Long's podcast. God bless him. We got more to talk about. And he had some – you actually sent me clips so I can play on the show later when we get to it. But he had a lot of gems in that podcast. So we're going to play one in a couple of minutes, but the good ones we're going to save for later in the show. So stick around for that. But we got some good stuff to get to today, Boone.
Yeah, it's actually I woke up this morning and said, I don't know what we're going to talk about on the show tonight. We'll come up with some fun segments, some fun things and things to talk about in the off season and segments in the off season, Jeff. It just feels like it just happens to just get handed to us and things start to happen, which is exciting. So the Jamo stuff, Brad Holmes talked about a lot on the Chris Long podcast. The what is it called? The Green Light podcast.
Yes, with Chris Long. Yeah.
Yes, and he does a good job too. I've watched it a couple times. I don't watch it every week. I'm not a recurring guest or viewer, but
he gets good guests on the show though.
He's an entertaining guy as well. So no, I'm pumped up. There's a lot of things to talk about. How you doing, Jeff? Too. Hey, I was telling you before the show too. I accidentally shaved my mustache a little bit, so I look a little.
Yeah, we were, we were discussing your mustache debacle. I was talking to you about how I just did. I don't know if anyone in the chat has experimented with this already, but I just got an ice bath. So I've been experimenting with the ice bath. I'm glad nobody saw me get in it because you would have laughed.
How long were you in there for?
I'm doing 2 minutes right now. 2 to 3 minutes. I can't do any longer than that.
You need to do 5 at least. Minimum.
I'm going to get up to 5, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be completely vulnerable with the chat. I put my legs in, and then I had to work my way. It was cold, dude.
It's. I'll tell you what.
Then I got in, and then I did.
It's like a bandage. You just gotta get in. You know what I mean? And then once
it was awesome.
Set a timer on your phone for 5 minutes and just sit there and just.
I felt like Joe Rogan in there. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
Rogan in there, dude. That's how I felt. I felt good. But I'm locked in, man. I'm ready to go.
Like Joe Rogan.
That's I felt like Joe Rogan today. All right, let's play one of the clips from the pod, which this one I thought was hilarious. That happened.
The interesting one, dude.
Yeah, one of the bigger storylines of the offseason, Ben Johnson going to Chicago, and I mean, Brad's commented on it, but this is why I love these type of interviews because you get to see more of non-press conference Brad, which I like. I like this version of Brad, and when Dan joins shows, I like getting guys outside of the press conferences because it just seems like you get a different type of Brad Holmes. So this is what he responded with when asked about Ben Johnson going to Chicago. All right. Check this out. Let's hear from Brad Holmes.
Obviously there are multiple jobs that were open that cycle. And so I didn't really know that, I knew he had interviewed for Chicago, but he interviewed for a lot of the other positions too. So I really didn't know which way it was going to go. I was thinking Chicago would have probably been the last destination, but or I was probably hoping that probably, but no, I really didn't know that was happening till it actually till he accepted the job, and we had a little talk briefly before he left. I was happy for him, man. I mean, he is a hell of a coach, man, and they have a really good one up there, but yeah, it's just a little man, why Chicago?
He must.
Obviously there were.
All right, yeah, you know what? It's the answer I expected. It's it's both ways. One, why is he in the division? Damn you, Ben Johnson.
Yep.
And then there's the other part of it where it's like, I know y'all heard him. I know y'all heard what he said. He's a good coach.
Yeah, come on now, Jeff Iafrate.
No, not you, Boone, but I'm talking to the people that think this guy's going to freaking be Adam Gase. Okay, that's who I'm addressing right now. But yeah, I mean, it's actually the biggest compliment, I think, for Brad and Dan when, I mean, this is the first time we've experienced this where you just get, now the Dan Campbell tree just starts getting laid out in the NFL. You know, You're going to get Aaron Glenn in New York, which I'm excited. I'm really excited for Aaron Glenn to see how that works out with the Jets. And I don't want to say I'm excited for the Bears. I'm not trying to say that, but because it's awkward because he's in your division. I get that. But you're starting to see this Dan Campbell tree, Boone. That's what you're starting to see now. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think, and I'll be honest too with you, Jeff, like Brad Holmes is one of the fellas. Like Brad Holmes is just like the fans at the end of the day. Like when I watched that video and I clipped it, posted it out there, and I knew exactly like, hey, this is how the fans felt. I think now there are a lot of people in the fan base who, because he's in Chicago, will say, oh, Ben Johnson's not going to do good. He's not a good coach. And they'll say that because he's Chicago Bears head coach. But realistically, we're all on the same page as Brad. He's a hell of a football coach. He's a really good football coach. But on top of that, it was, dude, you went to Chicago. That's majority of this fan base's like most hated football team outside of maybe the Green Bay Packers or maybe the Dallas Cowboys. Like that is a divisional opponent that you went to. And Brad kind of had the same feeling. That's why there's a little ease to it because I'm not saying I felt bad because I liked Ben, but I do think there was a world where we were all sitting there like, we loved Ben for years, and this guy just did that. So now hearing the GM, now hearing the GM kind of have a similar feeling, like, dude, you had as many options as you wanted, and Brad said it there. I literally thought the Bears were the last on his list. I thought that. Brad thought that. Jeff, I'm sure maybe we had the conversation that Caleb Williams is there because you like him, so you're like, it's a good spot. But if you were being realistic, you're like, oh, he's probably going to the Jags or the fact that he was in Chicago is
really
like
top 3 for me.
Yeah, it is just shocking though. Like I'm with Brad. Like I thought because of the rivalry and who they are that he probably wouldn't have chose them, and he would just went off and he did it, which he has to know. I would think Ben Johnson knows the fan base is going to hate him over Aaron Glenn because of where he went.
That's like, all it is.
He would have to be pretty aware. If he's not aware, then he's not going to be a good head coach. He would have to be aware that was part of the pushback of going to Chicago.
Well, my thought process on people not wanting Ben Johnson to succeed, I think there might be people out there that genuinely think that he's going to fail aside from him joining the Bears. They just don't think he can coach, which, that's their opinion. But the reason why I know it, a lot of it has to do with the Bears, which is fair. I'm not saying I get it. Like, fuck the Bears. I get it. Is because when Ben and AG were both here, who were people on the most? They were on AG's ass all the time, dude, as a coordinator. Ben was like the golden child. And then when they both leave, everyone now is like, AG is going to be a better coach. Like, it's like, I get it, though. Like, I understand it. He's in the division, so you want the guy to fail. Like, I'm not saying that's wrong. But I cannot wait. This is the thing about facing the Bears with Ben Johnson. It's not this season. It's as long as Dan and Ben, honestly, for as long as Ben's in Chicago, every time they play, those games are going to be electric. It could be 5 years from now, and you're still going to look at Ben like
2 times a year. It's twice a year.
Yeah. So like, I think those games they'll never get old, man. You know what I mean? They're always going to.
Now, do you blame Brad as well for the comments? I don't think I would blame him. I think he was spot on. At least if I was in that building, I think Brad was spot on with that.
There's an unspoken.
Like, come on, man.
There's got to be like an unspoken rule where they assume you're not going to go to the same division as the team you were a part of. I'm trying to think of
how often does that happen.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head how often that happens. Because even like, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, those guys get coaches hired, Andy Reid, but you never see them typically stay in their own division. I don't know if anyone in the chat knows.
Even any Bill Belichick guys that left always went out of division. I don't.
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, he went to the Colts and then he went to the Broncos.
Josh
But yeah,
McDaniels?
it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't typically happen because if you're working under a coach, you're working under a great coach, and usually that coach doesn't leave to go to a team in the same division.
And
Now,
Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's a good example. But to be fair, I don't know. Yeah, actually, I can't. There's no beef.
And it's a
there
great
there.
one.
But yeah,
That's
I was gonna
amazing.
say, to be fair, I was gonna say Dan Quinn's been a head coach. So like when you look at it, you're like, okay, he's done it before. But shout out Lentz, man. What an absolute legend. I love Lentz. By the way,
Yeah,
I
but I
texted
guess if I'm Dan
Lentz a
Quinn-
couple weeks ago and I said, love you, brother. And then he texted me back, asked a question, and I forgot to respond. That's just on me, man.
Oh, it happens. Ryan,
Yeah, he knows I love him.
dude's probably still running right now. It's been an hour and a half. But
Dude, can he run a marathon, do you think?
yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
That's
Half
sick.
a marathon he could definitely do. I learned what a half marathon was today. Didn't even know what
Is
it
it
was.
13?
Yep.
I don't even run, and I got that locked in.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. He's probably still running out there.
He said yes. Is that a yes to a marathon or a half?
Probably to the half. Both.
I think that's to the full. I need to get running. I would like to run a half marathon. I would like to go compete out into like a 5K or something. I couldn't right now.
Ryan says he just beat ups. The beat ups say what you want about beat ups, man.
It's good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
I got the rewards too. I got so many reward points.
Not even sponsored, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
We got to get beat ups this weekend. Now it's just like I don't want beat ups, man.
He said he could run a marathon. Lentz, can you train me? I need a trainer. The powers of Lentz and Jeff training me, like in the weight room and running, would just be ridiculous. I would become an absolute demon.
Yeah, that would be Boone. Yeah, there wouldn't be. I want the people. That's content. If we could make a series out of that, you getting into like just absolutely shredded shape.
If I got back into shape like in high school when I could, playing basketball, I could run. We could run all the time. Facebook Run Club. Okay. I don't have anywhere to run, I guess. I don't know. I have to figure this out.
Just
I need to get some like new running shoes or something.
Wait, T said, yeah, just finished the Holmes interview. Yeah, Zadarius ain't coming back.
I watched the whole thing. I would have, Jeff. I caught you up on the whole interview. We're going to talk about it later in the show.
I want to know.
I got you the clip of him. Chris Long asked him, "Hey, what's up with your edge room?" And Chris Long asked it, and he said Big Z, which I think he's meaning Zadarius. And I think Chris Long, when he asked the question, I didn't clip the question, I just clipped the answer. But when he asked the question, it felt like Chris Long, he said, "I saw you brought Big Z back. That was such a good signing." And I think he thought that Zadarius Smith was back, but all Brad said, and T, I thought going into the conversation in that question, I was all right. What's he going to say about Zadarius? But then it hit me before he even started to answer. He's not going to say a word about Zadarius because it could ruin contract conversation. You just can't say anything. So that's why he never brought Zadarius up. He just talked about his edge room with AQM, Marcus Davenport. They love Marcus Davenport, obviously, in the depth. So.
All right. Well, I'm excited.
I don't think
to talk about that.
Anything from that interview turned it away from Zadarius Smith. Zero part of that interview made you think Zadarius wasn't coming back.
Okay. All right. I trust you, Boom. I trust you. Let's start with Jameson Williams, because if you're not on the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, Jeff Risdon of Detroit Lions podcast was asked about Jameson Williams and getting an extension. And he had an answer. He knows something. The way he said his response, he knows something's coming. I mean, he used a very, very important word when he answered, and I want to show you the video so you can hear what word that is. But Jeff Risdon was asked, I think it was, who's more likely to get extended, Brock Wright, Jake Bates, or Jameson Williams? Here's his response and why. Let's take a listen. I think this is from Detroit Lions podcast, so credit to those guys, man. But here's the clip.
Next player most likely to get extended. And Sam gave me three choices: Jake Bates, Brock Wright, Jameson Williams. Jamo is getting done sooner than later. Very, very, very extraordinarily confident on that. Ebulliently confident on that. Next player
Man said extraordinarily confident on that.
Ebulliently. I want to just shout out Jeff Risdon for his words, his vocabulary there. That was unbelievable.
I will say I trust what Jeff Risdon delivers. He's very good at what he does. I talked to him. He's going to join the show early next week.
Let's go. I was literally going to say, can we get him on tomorrow?
Yeah,
We've had him on
joining
before.
early. He's on the road with his daughter. His daughter's doing all kinds of sports, so he's busy. But
if we can get Monday before he gets on any other shows, because I know these potentially for the first.
Yeah, I would love to have him on just to talk about it, honestly, and really just OTAs. But here's my thing with this, man. Jameson Williams, he's a special player. He's an incredible player. He is someone that I think, with all the reporting, it seems like it's the offseason of Jameson Williams and Zadarius Smith, to be honest. It's both, and the edge rusher position entirely. But out of the weapons, it's the Jameson Williams storyline, and he's been impressing. And Tim Twentyman's been reporting that him and Jared are on the same page, and he's making he's making plays and contested catches, and he hasn't dropped many passes. I'm reading all types of stuff with Jamo. So I think it's everyone kind of assumes that Jameson Williams is in for a pretty big year, right? And we agree he's going to be second on the team in receiving yards. And of course, Lucas would, disagree with that and put him third because he's a little crazy. But I think John Morton's going to love Jamo. I think the rapport with Jared and Jamo is only getting better. So therefore, Jamo, I think, will be better. I think they'll utilize him in different ways than just being a deep threat. They did that last year to some extent, but I think this year you're going to see more of a complete Jameson Williams. But the reality of it, man, is this: when it comes to in my opinion, will Jameson Williams get extended? I don't know. And I trust Jeff on that information, but would I extend him? No, I would not. And here's why I wouldn't. Or at least here's why I think the Lions will struggle to do so. Do I need to mention Aiden? All right, $35 million coming down the pipeline. Sam Laporta. And I'll get to that in a second. Don't worry. Brian Branch, probably going to be the highest paid safety, if not top two, because Kirby just got paid. He's going to want his, and rightfully so, man. I mean, you want Brian Branch to be a part of this team for the future. Coming down the pipeline after those guys, Jack Campbell.
Yep.
Jahmyr Gibbs. And you still haven't paid Anzalone. Here's the predicament we're in here, Booner. He's owed $15.49 million this year. It's all guaranteed. You saw Devontae Smith, wide receiver 2. I think that's like when I look at guys getting paid, I think that's the one I would probably point to. Wide receiver 2, he's putting up $1,000 a year. That's kind of what Jamo is. He got $27 million like 2 years ago. All right.
Yeah.
So you got to base it off that. Like if I'm Jamo, I'm looking at my agent. I'm saying, hey, look at Devontae Smith. This guy got 27. I played at Bama. I'm a Bama dog too. All right. Roll Tide. Hey, you got 27. Inflation. Give me 28, 29. All right. That's what and I saw someone in there put, well, Chris Godwin got 22, guys. Chris Godwin took a discount. Chris Godwin's worth every bit of 30. He took a discount. And
to be fair, too, just real quick on the Chris Godwin thing, he had an offer from the Patriots at $30 million. He took a $22 million in Florida because there's no tax. There's no income or state income tax.
Exactly.
So it kind of worked. Obviously, there's probably still a little bit of a difference, but it's not as big as it looks on paper because of the tax situation in Florida.
So I want to clarify that too. So I think Jamo deserves 30. He's going to get 30. I would rather have Aiden. I think everyone would agree with that. And when it comes to paying guys, I would rather have Brian Branch. And I'm sorry, I would rather have Sam Laporta at $10 to $15 million less. He's going to probably be $20 million, I would say. Probably $10 million would be the difference there. And it's hard to find an elite tight end, man. I would argue that finding a wide receiver 2 is easier than finding a top 5 tight end in the National Football League. That in the second round, by the way. Brock Bowers was drafted in the first last year. Or the year prior, last year. But those guys, Dan, don't grow on trees, especially in the second round. It's hard to find Sam Laporta. So for me, I think for Jamo, he should feel the need to get paid, and he deserves it. But I don't think it'll be with the Lions. I think there'll be a team out there that will be willing to pay him what he deserves. He could be a wide receiver 1, or maybe you trade him to a team that is willing to pay him. But I just don't see how it works with Jared Goff making the money he's making. and Aiden making the money he's making, because the thing with the Eagles, Boone, I brought up Devonta Smith, they don't have an Aiden, and they paid Devonta Smith. They're not paying anyone $35 million on the defensive line.
And then, no, that's the
tricky.
difference with this Eagles team is they have the interior with Jalen Carter, but outside of that, they just have a lot of guys that defensively they threw together and it worked out. And they drafted, but guess what they do with those draft picks on the line? They move on and draft new guys, and it's a rotating factor there. Exactly. I don't know the problem that I run into, Jeff, and I think you kind of have the same thought process. It's not just, hey, you have to pay all these guys, because if you had to pay guys like knowingly, like, hey, we can find market value, maybe. It's the fact that you just gave Kirby Joseph the biggest safety contract in NFL history, correct? You just moved the market in the safety room.
Yes.
Jared Goff, when you signed him, you essentially kind of had him as one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. Penei Sewell, one of the highest paid tackles in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown at that moment was the second highest paid running back or receiver, I apologize, in the NFL. Guess what else is coming, Jeff Iafrate? You're going to have to break the market and set a new market for the running backs with Jahmyr Gibbs potentially. You're going to have to do the same thing after you just set the market for the safety room. Jeff, guess what you have to do the next year? You have to turn around and set the market for the safety room again with Brian Branch potentially. Then you have to do it with Aiden Hutchinson potentially. This isn't one of those things where it's, hey, we can find a way to pay our guys at market value and get kind of some deals here. No, you have some of the best players in the best positions. In my opinion, you have one of the best wide receiver twos in the NFL, and you have to pay him as that, potentially a wide receiver one on a bad team, right? So that's, you know what, Jeff? I don't know. The thing with the Jeff Risdon, I'm going to pull this tweet up just so people have context. After the tweet came out yesterday of the video that we showed of him saying, hey, it's sooner rather than later, he did comment and say, hey, sooner is next off season. Nothing is imminent. So obviously a lot of people, I think a lot of Lions fans jump to, hey, there's a Jamo deal coming up in the next couple weeks. They're working on a deal currently. I still don't think, personally, Jeff, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that they're working on a deal currently. I think Brad's, hey, we're opting into that 5th year, and we're going to play this next year out and see what happens. And then if I'm Brad Holmes, and this is just realistic at some point, like, you love every player. He's very good. There has to be a realistic conversation with some players. The difference between Jamo and Sam Laporta, let's say you have to pick between the two. One player was drafted in the 1st round, Jeff, and the other player was drafted in the 2nd round. One player you have a 5th-year option with, the other one you don't. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I kind of get into a situation to where it's like, who's more likely to end up having to play their full contract out and then potentially get franchise tagged? I would have to go Jameson Williams, just based off of the contract that he has because he was a 1st-round draft pick. Because the money, if you pay Jamo the $30 million, and you're going to pay Sam $20 million and potentially break the tight end market and move that up, then you have to pay Brian Branch $20+ million. Like Jahmyr Gibbs potentially almost $20 million. It's impossible. It's financially impossible to find all of that money and throw it in somewhere. So they just have to figure that out. And there's going to be an odd man out. I think they can get by. Personally, I think they could get by without having one of these odd men out and keep Branch and keep Sam Laporta and Jahmyr. But someone has to take the bad end of it. And I think it would end up being Jamo and being like, hey, you got to play on your 5th year. And then after your 5th year, guess what we're going to do? We got to do what happens with T. Higgins. And I know we all hate the Bengals right now with what they're doing. But hey, it's a bad circumstance. But for us to be able to keep the band together, you got to play on a franchise tag too.
So
that's how I would go about it if I was the GM.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. The tough part of this whole thing is when you say, hey, Jamo's probably expendable, people get upset because he is a fan favorite. He is a great player. No one's arguing talent. You're gonna make people unhappy no matter who you decide. I'm just telling you, I'm just telling the people, I'm keeping it a stack with you guys, man. It's what I think it is, and in terms of who I think it should stay, and it doesn't involve Jameson because he's the odd man out, unfortunately, because your quarterback has a $60-something million cap hit next season, or not next season, but the season following. So it's going to get harder. Jared's going to have to take a discount, man. Like he's going to have to give some of that money back, or convert it into. I don't mean literally.
I think that's like a guarantee that
yeah,
Jerk up will
they're
do
going to have
that.
to free up cash, bro. And I'm telling you, as much as Brad, you look at Brad Holmes' history. This is where I think it really matters, and people maybe didn't think about this, but if you do, maybe it sways your opinion a little bit. Through Brad Holmes' tenure as a GM and a scout, what has been one of the better positions he's been able to identify? It's wide receiver. He's drafted Amon-Ra in the 4th round. He was a big part of the Rams drafting Cooper Kupp. Like he traded up 20 spots to take Jameson Williams. And who did he just select in this draft? Isaac Tesla in the 3rd round.
No. You're gonna make people mad.
So my point being is, do I think Isaac Tesla is going to be like a Vanillatron? I don't know. But my point being is Brad's got a pretty good hit rate on receivers. So when it comes to, hey, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, like how many guys are just drafting elite tight ends past the 1st round? It just doesn't happen, man. You know, and then if you're able to do it, you typically re-sign those guys. It's just hard. It's hard. And I have a lot of comments here I want to get to. If you have anything to say back to that, Boone, I'll get to these comments. Because
No, I just want to say, like, it's just such a weird situation. Because I'm with you, like the Tesla thing, but I mean, we all had the conversation, and whether you're like now all banging the table, like sign Jamo, dude. How many of us were doing shows, and how many of us were in the comment section? And I know 90% of the people in the comments were asking Brad Holmes in the first 3 rounds to get a wide receiver because knowing that the Jamo thing's going to happen at some point, and you can't sign everyone, and asking for the replacement. The Jaden Higgins, like everyone was Kyle Williams. So it's a weird thing, and it's crazy to me. And shout out to Easy in the chat. I was listening to his Easy's off the rails as always. This man is, but I was listening to Easy earlier, and he kind of Easy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like Easy had the similar take as you and I, where it's just like kind of glad that they don't get a deal done this summer because at that point you're just tying yourself down. You know what I mean? You're in a tough spot. I don't know how I feel the fact that, and I hate to say it, but I don't know how I feel about the fact that there's a deal sooner rather than later, and that means even next offseason they might do a deal.
I know.
Because now I'm sitting there going, where is this money coming from? And as soon as that deal gets done, like I would love for the people to put out there, like, who are you willing to walk away from if you keep Jamo? I'm genuinely curious on that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's under contract, as long as you have Sam Laporta, as long as you have Jahmyr Gibbs, Penei Sewell, not Frank Ragnow anymore, but you get my point. This offense, you're gonna have dudes, man. And as much as I would love it to be stacked beyond belief and have Jamo and have all these weapons, like Jamo wants, like he's probably gonna want wide receiver 1 money. And I've already stated my case on this. I wouldn't pay Jamo early. I've told you that before. Like I need to see it another year of that. He's done it. He 1 year was great. He had a great year, 1,000 yards. But I got to see it again. And Streams Only says, so why have Tesla? Is it for Tim Patrick replacement? Okay, so then why trade up so much for him? Basically saying like you have Tesla, which like, yeah, I don't think Brad views him as just a Tim Patrick replacement. I think Brad really likes Isaac Tesla. Like, I think he really likes him. Like I
talked about him on the podcast, the Green Light show today, and he was very, very, very high on Isaac Tesla.
Like, despite what we were skeptical, like I was skeptical about the trade up, like when you look at the player, I understand why you're excited. The guy's a 4'4", 6'4" type of player with great hands. Like I get it. And you're kind of projecting he's going to be a good player. So I get it. I don't think he's just a Tim Patrick replacement. I think he could be maybe a Jamo replacement. Ben Blue says, y'all think the Cardinals were like, nah, we can find another tight end and traded away Trey McBride? Hell nah. They extended him because he's a great tight end.
That's where you get into a tough spot. It's like you could have a great wide receiver, a great running back, and a great tight end, or you can get rid of your top 3 tight end and you can go with 2 wide receivers and a running back, and you have to find a new tight end. It's just,
I just think it's an advantage to have if you have a tight end that's like top 5, it's just a matchup nightmare. And I'm not saying Jamo isn't. I just think there's not too many cover linebackers. Like you either got to bring you got to bring a safety down or something. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
really guard Sam Laporta. Like, he's going to cook every linebacker out there. Pretty much.
I hate this because,
besides
dude,
Fred Warner. But
I
Mo.
just want, at this point, dude, I really, at the end of the day, like, I just want to get to the end of this year after, we win a Super Bowl and see what Jamo does. And then be able to look at the contract. What is the contract? How does the cap go up? The cap's going to go up. Like, how does everything play into place? Does Jamo want a 5 or a 4-year deal like Amon-Ra? What is he? I don't know. I just think there's a lot of factors to it, to where I'm glad that I'm glad and mad at the same time. Like, I'm glad that they're not doing a deal today, and they're waiting until the end of the year at least. But I'm a little like nervous at the end of the year. I don't know, Brad.
I mean, this is disrespect. Cartier
What?
says we don't know Tesla's intangibles. Okay, he caught some passes over some plumbers. That's okay. That's Cartier. I understand he is an unknown commodity, but the plumbers thing. I mean, the dude was playing in the SEC.
He's in
with
the
no
SEC,
quarterback.
yeah.
Yeah,
And you know what, Cartier, and maybe Cartier is not a Brad Holmes guy, but if you got to be able to trust Brad a little bit. Like, I told you, Jeff, he was talking about Tesla today on the Chris Long show, and he was just like, he said the one thing that stood out to me is he brought up the run blocking. He said we fell in love with him at the Senior Bowl because we saw him run blocking in live situations, not just in drills, but live situations. He said he hasn't seen a wide receiver block in that way since Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out of USC. And then he said he starts watching film, and at the Senior Bowl, the man's catching everything now with his body, with his hands. And he was just like, this guy's a little different, even though he doesn't have the numbers for it. So I do trust Brad's evaluation, to be honest. If you think if that was it. Oh, breaking news. Oh, never mind. Sorry. There's breaking news, but it's just not as big as Antonio Brown, ML football, #NFL legend. Antonio Brown is wanted on a criminal charge of attempted murder relating to it. This is all allegedly. I want to make that known so no one can come at us. Attempted murder related to a shooting at a celebrity boxing event. That was that. Okay. So he's wanted now. That was that video that came out.
Yeah, it's not he has his moments. He's got a lot of those moments.
Sorry, I thought that was bigger breaking news.
Let's see. Wheezy D, I got a couple comments I do want to show here. Wheezy D, Hefe still thinks it's an insurmountable gap between Jamo and St. Brown. I think they're neck and neck. Saint just hit the ground running. I don't think there's a humongous gap between them. I just think where Amon-Ra St. Brown is right now as a player and the rapport he has with Goff, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think Amon-Ra is always going to be the go-to guy.
Wait, Jeff, Wheezy D, let's put our thinking caps on, Wheezy D. Think about it a little bit. What's the conversation we're having right now? Genuinely, Jeff, what's the conversation we're having right now?
Trying to pay everyone and who
pay money, right? We're not saying who's better, who's not. Wheezy D, to your point that your comment you're making here, even if that's true, it's making the point that much more. They chose to pay Amon-Ra already. You're not sitting here on the same contract being like, who would you rather pay? It's you already paid a wide receiver top 5 money. If Jamo is as good as Amon-Ra, that means you have to pay him top 5 money as well. You can't pay 2 wide receivers top 5 money. You cannot do it. Look what happened with the 49ers. They had to go out and draft new weapons because they couldn't pay guys like Debo and Brandon Ayuk and all these different guys. And they're going to pay Juwan Jennings.
And then they re-signed George
Kittle. And they re-signed Brock Purdy. It's just that Wheezy D, I see what you're saying. And you know what? I'm not far off. I think Jamo potentially this year could have a big year, and people can look at him as a top 15 wide receiver. But the conversation we're having is about money. It's not about who's better. It's, hey, you already paid Amon-Ra St. Brown. Can you pay 2 wide receivers that much money? No, probably not. It's the same conversation with the edge room with Hutch and people wanting to Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt. Hey, those guys want deals. Can you pay those guys deals and pay Aiden Hutchinson? No. It's a what's the word, Jeff? It's a dream, something dream.
It's a pipe dream.
Pipe dream. That's what it is. A pipe dream.
Yeah, that's the problem, man. It has nothing to do with Jamo. There's no debating the player. We're not debating the player, man. You know, I mean, look at what the Bengals just did. You think honestly, I would have never done that. I think there's a lot of fans and probably other GMs that would not have done that. So I'm not, before someone comments, well, of course you wouldn't have done that. You ain't no GM. No, of course I'm not. But I think there's a lot of Bengals fans that agree with that sentiment. Why would you, with how that defense looks, who gives you the right to pay T. Higgins, and keep franchise tagging him, by the way, and they have the whole thing with Shamar Stewart going on, so it's a disaster. But why pay both receivers in Joe Burrow when you don't have an O-line and your defense stinks? Like that, they should have let T walk, draft another wide receiver too, and give that money to Trey Hendrickson. But no,
you know what? That's a perfect example of what's going on right now. Stupid. They had to walk away from their linebacker. They've had to walk away from different players. They still can't figure out Trey Hendrickson's money. They paid 2 wide receivers. They paid Joe Burrow. Guess what else they don't have? They don't have they don't have like a star running back. They don't have what else? They don't have 2 high-level Pro Bowl safeties, all-pro safeties.
Yeah, they don't have it. Really,
they don't have that situation's so different that they're able to pay those 2 guys. In Detroit, you've already paid those types of guys. It's like, to me, it's like it's similar, but it's still a little bit different because of that, because of what they have outside of those players.
I will say this about that situation too. The Bengals, you guys should want Brad in this position to draft more wide receivers. I'm sorry. There's like, look at what's going on with the Green Bay Packers in your own division. Look how many receivers they've taken, and they're all wide receiver 2s and 3s. Yeah. Like Brad, when he drafts guys, he has 2 basically wide receiver 1s. I mean, that, like, the guy knows how to draft wide receivers. So this is why I probably feel more comfortable letting
He's
Brad.
Drafted 4 total so far, correct?
Yeah, and the only one, I mean, Antoine Green was like a 7th rounder, so I'm not even going to count that. Like, but when he drafts them in the early rounds, he's been smacking. You know,
2 for 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've been pretty good. So trust the man, dude. Jeez. Look at Schiff got the wasted whole pick on Shamar. By the way, we'll get to all that stuff later. I do want to talk about that. Weezy D says, well, it's time for us to start over with a rookie quarterback deal. You're already in too deep, man. You're already past that. I mean, we can't talk about the rookie quarterback thing. You're locked in with Goff. Goff's going to have to restructure. I mean, and I agree with you. I think he will, but they're going to have to free up some money, man. I mean,
I think they would have already had a conversation with Jared Goff.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, even when he signed the deal, hey, this is what it's going to look like. Are you available? Like, I don't think they would have gone through with it if Jared said, yeah, I'm not. Like, if he said, hey, I'm not willing to, restructure after certain years or do this and work with you guys, I feel like they would have said, okay, then let's just hold off for a minute. I think the fact that they did the deal the way they did and the way Brad spread it out, I think like that shows right there that they've already had a conversation with Jared Goff. Hey, can after your second year in the deal, can we get a restructure and move things down the line a little bit? For sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Ben Booth says, I'm gonna be mad if Goff doesn't restructure. I ain't a fan of the contract. I think he will. He's made a lot of money.
I almost want to make that like the biggest guarantee of all time.
That's the biggest guarantee of all time. That is the biggest guarantee of all time. Well, let's you want to get to some of these Brad clips? I have a bunch of them we can go through and discuss, which I'm very excited about. I have 3 right here that I can play, different ones. Which you want to start with?
Well, I guess we can ask the people. I mean, do we want to listen to Brad? Yeah, there's a couple of clips of him talking about the D line. It's either the D line or the new coaching staff. We'll see I guess we can ask the people what they want to.
Yeah, because this podcast, I mean, go watch it after the show, because
it's only 24 minutes, dude. And
we'll play highlights and then go back and watch it. I'm definitely gonna watch it after the show. I just dropped like an hour ago, so I had Bleacher Report. I wasn't able to watch it, but I'm gonna definitely watch it. And then I saw Kelvin was on Kay Adams. I know they asked that man about.
Oh, we should play that today.
You want to play that right now before we get to the Brad stuff?
Yeah, we'll let the people put in the chat what they want to do. D line.
Yeah, because Kelvin was on Kay Adams, and they just asked this man about Trey, and I don't even know what he's supposed to say. I mean, he's like, Let me see.
It is a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, I'll play this clip. All right, here it is. He's like, I don't even know where he's at. The guy's like got sunglasses on. Let me see. All right, here's that clip.
Hendrickson might be available. Okay, 17.5 sacks. He's done it. Trey Hendrickson might be available. Okay, 17.5 sacks. He's done it twice. One of the best in the game. The Bengals might not get the deal done. If they don't come up with a new deal, is this something that Detroit should explore?
Man, I would love that. See Hayden and Henderson crossing each other. That's pretty scary. That would be awesome. That would be man, that would be a dominant move. I don't know if we can afford it, but hey, that'd be a great move.
I mean, Zadarius Smith walked in free agency. Marcus Davenport's there. I love that. But we're getting the Calvin Johnson cosign and maybe bringing him in. Trey Hendrickson.
Hey, I was like, can you throw the video? Oh, you like the video? I was gonna say, can you throw it up one more time? Can you see the reflection in his glasses? The man's just holding his arm up the whole interview. He's got the strength for it, but man.
I mean, K Adams, can you ask the man about Zadarius? Like, just throw him a little Zadarius question. I mean, he didn't really get to ask him about that Zadarius. He just went right to Trey. And I'm already, you know what I've seen today? I've had enough. I almost just closed Twitter. Why is TJ Watt on my timeline? Why? Lions fan, everyone in the chat, have you seen this shit? Am I the only one that opens up Twitter and sees TJ Watt to the Lions? Why?
Can we make a pact? A pack? Is it a pack or a pact?
Pact.
Pact.
You got me confused.
It's a pact. Pact.
A pact.
Can we make a pact? People in the chat, the fans watching, Lions fans watching. Can we make a pact, please? No more Trey Hendrickson and TJ Watt to the Detroit Lions conversations.
Gets the people going.
It gets the people going, but it's the most unrealistic conversation that gets you hyped up. It gets me hyped up. And you know what? I know it's not true and I know it won't happen, but Jeff, you know how the human body works. In the back of your mind, there's always that, what if though? What if though? What if? And even though I know, and I've been at the forefront of saying, let's stop talking about it, I just know in the back of my mind, I'm just like, man, but what if Brad did it somehow? Even though I know it's not going to ever happen, it's the most unrealistic thing of all time. I would just like to make the pact so it stops coming across our timelines and people stop asking about it. And I know we did post it, but that's okay. That's our job. But you know what I'm saying? As fans, let's stop pushing the narrative that, hey, TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson could be a Detroit Lion. It is the most dead thing of all time. It's I'm not going to say. I almost said something bad. I won't say it.
Yeah, it's
deader than something else, but
it's dead. It's dead. Hey, stop it. There's no way TJ Watt. I don't think he leaves Pittsburgh. I think they would never do that.
I think Mike Tomlin came out and said that he's not leaving, going anywhere. Like everyone in Pittsburgh has come out and said, they've asked him, they go, I'm confident the deal's going to get done. It's TJ. It's TJ Watt. What are we doing here?
It's TJ F and Watt. I mean, what are we doing here?
Best defensive player in the NFL. You don't think we're keeping that man in our building?
What was that? I was trying to find the. Oh yeah, right. I wanted TJ Watt in the draft. Was that the Gerard Davis draft? I think that was the Gerard Davis draft. I think.
Imagine having TJ.
I don't know if I'm right on that chat. Is that the Gerard Davis draft? Trying to think. I can't remember if it was the Gerard Davis draft. What a time though. Gosh. Yeah, he was found late in the first round. So. Oh, Ryan. Okay. Yeah, it was Gerard Davis. All right. Jeez, man. What a time, man. What a time. You don't have you think about it. When you talk about replacing players, you have a guy that doesn't draft Gerard Davis. I'm telling you. It's you're in a pretty good spot with Brad Holmes. I'll tell you that. All right, let's get to some of these clips. Speaking of, we're talking about the D-line. I'll just play the D-line clip. I saw a couple comments mention it too. But before we do that, Klotzy's joining the show. Let's welcome in Klotz. Lukas Klotz, host of Crunch Time Trivia.
How are we, fellas? How are we doing tonight? Booner, happy.
Klotzy.
Klotz.
How are you doing, Lukas Klotz?
Ball over, boom.
We're about to get into the Brad Holmes interview. Klotz joined at a perfect time.
Stop. Hold on. Let me
Mike.
turn y'all up real quick.
Yeah, no, you got to switch your mic to your mic. The technical difficulties, like in those videos, like the screen that goes across like all those different colors. We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Checking. Check 1 2 1.
Yep.
We're here.
Hey,
Thank
Klotz,
you, Boone.
did you get buckets? I just got to know. Did you get buckets?
Finish with a smooth 4. 4. Well, 4 12 and 4. 4 12 and 4.
What's the 12?
Boards.
4 12 and 4.
Is 12 an accurate number, or is that just did you count every?
Oh
board
no,
you got?
we kept stats.
4 12 and 4. I'm kind of disappointed.
Wow.
No. Ones and twos. I hit 2 twos. That's all I needed to do. Team won by 6. We move.
Is this an actual like league?
No, my buddy in the Air Force came home from Japan. We always used to fucking hoop. So we're like, hey,
shout out, man.
Duncan's home. Let's hoop real quick.
His name's Duncan. He loves to hoop.
Yeah. Hockey player and basketball player. Only kid in our high school that played hockey.
All right, just checking. Just making sure you were hooping. All right, let's play these
Dubs.
clips here. First, we'll get with the D-line one, and then I'll get to the Tyreek stuff. But here's Brad Holmes talking about that D-line. I can't wait for this. Let's make a list.
And maybe this is a chance for you to get your Brandon Bean on. By that I mean it's tell the media that they don't know what the hell they're talking about sometimes. Where you guys are third in the league in pressure rate last year, and it's like it feels like probably every week you're fielding a question about, hey, how about another edge rusher, that sort of thing. Just give me the state of the edge position for you. I think obviously a lot of people want to know how Hutchinson's progressing.
Yeah.
But I also thought, as a side note, and I read something this morning about Big Z possibly coming back, I thought that was one of the most impactful signings of the year on any team.
Yeah.
Talk about pulling a rabbit out of your hat. I love his game, and it showed up in Detroit. So what's it look like out on the edge?
Yeah, so Aiden looks great, man. He's been out there in OTAs. Really didn't expect anything else. You never truly know because you don't have a crystal ball, but just knowing how that guy's wired and how he attacks things and how in tune he is with his body, it did not surprise me. I mean, he's out there. He looks explosive. He's changing direction. I mean, he looks really good, man. And then we brought back Marcus Davenport on a one-year deal. He was playing really good football for us before he unfortunately got hurt, man. And so hopefully he gets better luck on his side. And so, and he's been out there, and I would say he looks just as good, man. I mean, he has been, his body is feeling great. His body looks great, man. And he had a good summer as well in terms of the OTAs. And then, we brought Al-Qadim Muhammad back that we signed last year, who logged some good snaps for us, played good football, plays hard. He's physical. He'll set edges, man. He plays with a lot of effort. And then we were able to draft Ahmed Hassanein from Boise in the 6th round. And he's just another guy. He's got some work to do from a developmental standpoint, just like they all do. But he's not some fish out of water, just raw, don't know what he's doing out there. I mean, when you look at his production, he had the most in terms of sacks and pressures combined the past 2 years. He had the most production out of all the edge rushers in that class. And just so happens that he plays with his hair on fire as well. So we feel good about where we're at that position. But, just going back to the interior though, Chris, is, man, you know as well as anybody, like, man, if you're not good in the middle, I mean, I don't care what you have on the edges and that corner and say, man, if you're not good in the middle, it's hard, man. That's a hard life. And so that's why we were really happy to get Tyreek to really fortify that middle, along with DJ Reader still coming back. We're able to get Levi Onwuzurike back in free agency. And then, while we're having Aleem come back too, we were able to sign Roy Lopez in free agency as well.
Roy Lopez,
yeah. So we feel really good about the middle, because if that's not right, man, it's some long days on defense.
Shout out Roy
Well,
Lopez.
so there's a lot of information. All right, a lot of information. He broke down a lot of those players. Davenport looks good. Body looks good. He looks like he's in the best shape of his life. Which, that's great. I'm not saying I'm not going to discredit
Rinse, wash, repeat.
That's all. I mean, you just take it at face value and say, you know what? That's awesome. He's staying in shape. Right? That's great. But you still got to get through a season. That's just, and then that Davenport thing. The thing I do love what Brad said, I will say this, and then you can knock it out, Boone.
I just have a question. Yeah, say it, and then I have a question for you.
The thing that I loved and the thing that I agree with is his point about the interior of the defensive line. Because one of the truest statements we say on the show often is the worst thing for a quarterback is pressure from the interior. And especially quarterbacks that aren't as mobile. Now, guys that are mobile, it still isn't great for any quarterback, but at least they can escape a little bit. But when you have pressure from the interior, man, it causes problems for quarterbacks, especially when you have a good interior defensive line. Your run defense is always going to be really good. You're going to get tackled for losses. So I agree with what he said. Now, do I still look at the edge position besides Aiden, and am I in love with it? I'm not in love with it. I'm not. And I think most fans agree with that. But I think he's Brad Holmes, man. He's going to stand by his picks. Like I don't hate what he said. But the thing I love is what he was saying about the interior. I'm not going to disagree with anything he said there. I mean, he beefed up the interior.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people. I think what he said at the end there, I'm with you on that. I think a lot of people look at this Eagles team that won essentially from their D line, and when they think D line, they just think edge rushers. And it's like realistically, this Eagles D line, like what was their strength? It was their interior D line. It wasn't like they had good edge rushers. I'm not saying they didn't, but their strength was their interior. Like they didn't have an Aiden Hutchinson. They didn't have anyone, in my opinion, close to Aiden Hutchinson. They had inside Jalen Carter. And I think that's where Brad and them kind of realize it. And I think a lot of people in the NFL, good teams, look at the Rams, what they did interior as well. The Chiefs with Chris Jones and their interior. Most teams that win Super Bowls, it feels like they prioritize interior D-line over edge at the end of the day. And I think we had this conversation. It might have just been me and Klotz. I can't remember who I spoke with about this. But we had laid out like the contenders. And we're like, what elite edge rushers are really on the contenders? And it was like, if you add the lines, and Hutch is the best one. Because we look at Micah Parsons, Cowboys aren't contenders. Myles Garrett, they're not contenders. TJ Watt, they're not contenders. All the contenders just like focused on interior, and then they go from the inside out. And I think that's what Brad, and I think he knows it because he was in LA and they were kind of getting to that point and they went to a Super Bowl and they knew it with Aaron Donald. And I think he's trying to replicate that. That really that got me.
I get you. I know what you're saying.
I think over the last week we've all attempted to say that word, and I
think
we could, but I think we've all come pretty close. We haven't butchered it.
Yeah, do you guys see what I'm saying though with that? So I don't think in my mind the edge is an important thing. I think across from Hutch, I think if you get Zadarius Smith, you have a perfect D line essentially from top to bottom. And without him, it's like you still have a good D line. That's why I put that tweet out a couple weeks ago. Hey, I think people might be underestimating the D line a little bit because, and I put it in the tweet, the caveat, because people are so obsessed with adding another piece on the other side of Hutch, but they forget actually the pieces that are in there, how good they can actually be. So that's what I think it was. And I do want to bring up this too, the question I had. There was nowhere in that video too, I can't remember who said it in the chat earlier, that made you even think Brad's not thinking Zadarius Smith. There wasn't one iota in my body that was like.
I hope he still is.
I just think the reason he didn't bring him up was because you can't talk about that. You know what I mean? You can't. Like, what is he supposed to say? Yeah, no, we got Zadarius signing next week, and then Zadarius' agent's like, "Hey, what are you talking about?" You see what I'm saying there? It's that's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, to go more specifically, Boone, because I was really going to bring up the point that you did. To go down the defensive tackles that have won the Super Bowl recently, Jalen Carter, Chris Jones again, Aaron Donald, Vita Vea, Chris Jones again. Bill Belichick and that Patriots team was the one outlier when they were able to beat Atlanta that one year. Their defensive line was, let me pull it up so it can be Chris Long, ironically, Alan Branch, Malcolm Brown, and then Jabal Sheard. So nobody really stuck out, but they have Tom fucking Brady. So if that's the anomaly you want to stick to, go for it. They also came back from a 28-3 deficit. And then the year before that, Jim Schwartz with Fletcher Cox. So the defensive interior, it's what makes or breaks a lot of these teams, because if you don't have that defensive interior, forget the pass rush, because that is important. But if you can't stop an elite running game in the Super Bowl, good luck getting on the field, because most likely that team that got to the Super Bowl, probably one of the better rushing teams in the NFL, can control the clock, and they have a solid defense as well. So if you're not right in the interior of that defensive line, pass rush, important. Like, not trying to say that it's not, but if you can't stop the run, and they have Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, they're just going to eat up the clock, and your offense could be turned one-dimensional very quickly, because that's what's going to happen. If you go up against a good head coach and they can run the football, I mean, look at what happens when the Lions can run the football with ease. There's no slowing down that team when the run game gets going. So stopping the run, importantly, too. But Lions, I think, for a while, the defensive interior, even if Aleem doesn't live up to the contract that he's getting paid, I think we can all admit that Aleem's probably at least will be a top 15 defensive tackle in the NFL, which is good, because Tyreek, I think, is going to be in that same tier. I think both of those guys, 3 down defensive tackles that'll get the job done and continue to get better.
Can I say too, real quick? And I think you guys would agree. I've been on this for a while. I really do think that if they don't even sign Za'Darius, I think people underestimate the D line. I really do. I think, like, last year without Hutch, they put things together. And in this interview, actually, Chris Long, all-time defensive lineman. Chris Long is unbelievable. And he brought it up. He was like, I don't understand sometimes when people go at what you guys did last year with the injuries. And I think he said they were 3rd in pressure rate to the quarterback, 3rd in the NFL without Aiden Hutchinson. Like, to me, I know you don't get the sacks and they weren't finishing, but you just add Aiden Hutchinson. You say Aiden Hutchinson's 80% of what he was. You add him in, and you get what you got out of that D-line the second half of the year last year with some of those guys. Dude, what are we talking about here? And you have that interior you have. Come on now. Like, what are we really talking about? You put Hutch out there with that interior, and you find just something with that other side. You're crazy. And I know some of the people who went at me for it when I tweeted it out and said, "Oh, Booner, you're an idiot." Okay, go ahead. Call me an idiot. At least I'm smart enough to realize that the edge room isn't as bad as you think it actually is with a guy like Aiden Hutchinson in there. At the end of the day, that's to me, it's more so of a fact than it is because there's numbers that back it.
I think I think what people are coming from with it, and this is where I think I understand last year, like, Chris Long opened it up with mentioning the pressure rate, which that's the thing, like the pressure rate, which I'm not saying there weren't games, especially Hutch, what he did at the beginning of the year. I mean, he was on a tear.
5 sacks against Tampa?
4, yeah. I mean, the guy went absolutely crazy. But I think where people are coming from is when you look at big games, the last 3 big games they've played in, which, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last 3 big games they played in, I would say the Commanders game.
Yep,
which
Bills.
They melted down. Obviously, that was a lot of things. The Bills, and then I would say that would be the 49ers NFC Championship game.
Yeah, you could probably throw that Houston Texans game with CJ Stroud in there, right? No,
I would.
No.
Maybe.
No, I love you, Boone, but that
On the
was
road?
so random.
You know what, Boone?
On the road.
You know what, Boone? Yeah, that was a random poll, but I'm going to be honest.
I was more so thinking last year. I wasn't
18.
thinking
No, Boone. Actually,
I don't want to use 2 years ago as an example.
You know what? You know what though? I would throw in the Vikings game. So they you know what, that one.
Sorry, that's on me. You know what? That game was big for me. I don't know why.
Yeah,
we were at the Tin Roof. It was prime time. That was one of the greatest comebacks of my lifetime. It was unbelievable.
I think people have some games in recent history still in their brain where they just couldn't get pressure, but they've gotten better with Tyreek.
But those 3 games, Jeff, what's one common denominator in those 3 games?
What games did we list? I was
The
going to say
Vi-
mid
the-
quarterback play, but
Let's just
Jaden
talk. I'm
Daniels.
just talking about last year. I don't want to talk 2 years ago. I think that just
This
that
is
argument is
where I
so
think it
far off.
applies.
Hold on, Clyde. Let's do
Go
this.
ahead,
Let's
go
do this real quick. What's the one common denominator in
They
the
didn't have
Commanders
Hutch.
game? Thank you. And I think that's the big thing to where they didn't have Hutch. Were they terrible? No, but were they good? No. Is that why they lost? You could argue it. In the Commanders game, there was the turnovers offensively. Were they getting cut up by Jane Daniels? Yes. Was it terrible by the D line? No. There were guys that stepped up. You had no Ali McNeil in those games. You had no Aiden Hutchinson. You rolled out there with essentially Zadarius Smith, DJ Reader, Levi O, Josh Pascal. I don't even know if Broderick ever ended up getting, like, it was just like such
And more.
Yeah, like it was literally just guys that are backups for you this year, essentially. Like that's what you're rolling out there with. If you throw Hutch in there, I don't see a world where you're sitting there going like, hey, we're like, you guys know, you throw Hutch and the lean back in those games, you guys know, you two, right? Look me in my eyes. You guys know that defensive line is night and day difference with the Lee McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson in there. And that is my bottom line, my point. Now, am I saying they're going to be the best D line in the NFL? Obviously not. But why do we act like they're a bottom 10 D line without someone across from Hutch? And people genuinely, when I put that tweet out, people genuinely are, Booner, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. Well, no, actually, I do, because when Hutch is healthy, when Aleem's healthy, and you have DJ Reader and Tyleek, and then say Marcus Davenport's healthy, AQM had 3 sacks in 6 games. Like Levi O and Josh Pascal were your starters last year. They're now your rotational pieces. I can't wrap my head in my mind how people don't look at that and say that's an improvement. And or people look at it and say there's no improvement there. They're still just as bad as last year on the D line. They're not. They're literally, they've improved. They're not a bottom 10 D line the way people talk about them.
I think where it comes, Boone, is I think on paper, like, absolutely you can say they improved. And this is me playing devil's advocate, where you're like, I don't understand. I think when you look at, I'm trying to think of like the painful games that we've had to watch as Lions fans, and it's the defense side of the ball. So I'm going to throw the Commanders game in there. I'd put the Bills game. Even going back 2 years ago, just because Hutch and Aleem are out there, I'm going to look at the NFC Championship game, the Packers game on Thanksgiving where Jordan Love just went off. And when you look at like the common theme of what really killed it is RPOs, because what they're doing is they're taking Aiden Hutchinson out of the game because we're going to see what's Hutch going to do. Hutch giving pressure. Okay, we're either going to pull it with the mobile quarterback, which we saw a lot with Jaden Daniels. And what the Packers love to do is they'll throw it right over their head. Like, remember that one throw to Jordan Love to Jaden Reed when it was right behind Brian Branch? And you just look at those things, and it's because they're allowing Hutch and the read and reacting off of Hutch, but there's not that consistent second guy applying pressure. Even with Aleem, I remember late in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game, Brock Purdy stepping up on a 3rd down, and no one's in the middle of that defense, and he's running for 20 yards to help seal the game. So I think that's where it's just that's where we have to rely on one when Aleem comes back healthy. That's where it comes, because Hutch can be doing his job and Hutch can be getting 4 sacks a game like we saw against Tampa Bay. But you see just that one play where Hutch can't be Superman every play. Baker Mayfield steps up, jukes out Alex Anzalone, and he's rolling in the end zone for a touchdown.
But that's like, to me, that's like the example you bring up. Like, that's every team with a good edge rusher. Like at that point, it's just you have to trust that. You have to have trust that Tyleek works out, that DJ Reader has another career year, that Aleem comes back healthy, that Davenport's healthy. Like, this is the conversations that people have about this D line is what every NFL team can make excuses up for their D line.
But that's where I think when you look at example Philadelphia, when you look at when the Niners are buzzing and the Chiefs, you look at the Chiefs and they have that dominant dude to the inside. When the quarterback steps up, you have to run to a side, and there's George Karlaftis. When you talk about the Josh Sweats of the world, that's where we have to see, like, if Hutch can be Hutch, to your point, a Super Bowl team, like, it's great to have an Aiden Hutchinson, but you got to see Aleem be Aleem fucking McNeil and see why you just got paid that
Agreed.
huge contract.
Again, I see what you're saying. Like, I agree with what you're saying. My point is when I put those tweets out, or when we had the conversation, when people have these conversations and they act like this is a bottom 15 defensive line in the NFL, is one of the most and you guys know who I'm talking about in a sense, and some people that I'm talking about who are like, this D line's the worst in the NFL. What are you talking about, Booner? These guys are all like, are we being serious now? Like, that's the point that irks me a little bit, where it's like, why are we acting like this is a bad D line? When they are healthy, they put together a good D line. Now, yes, can it be better because you're not a top 5 D line? Of course, man. Of course. No one's ignoring that. But let's stop being illiterate and let's actually say, hey, this is a decent defensive line. It can get better, and it is a big deal. But this isn't like it's not like people act like we're going into the season with like Rutgers defensive line.
Hey.
Yeah, definitely not Rutgers, man. I agree. I think they're not bad. It's just like you said, you know how much better they would get if they were to add. If they were to add.
Agreed. You have Zadarius Smith. I said it the other day. You're top 5.
It's really, to me, it's not even like I think Davenport's a terrible player. I just don't trust him being healthy. That is literally. So that's where the skepticism comes in. I'm surprised Brad doesn't really already he has to understand that, dude. Like, the guy's never
but you can't say, look, we know Davenport's gonna get hurt. Like, you can't even hint at it.
I mean, what's his name? Calvin Shepard literally stood up on the podium a week ago or 2 weeks ago and goes, the only issue with Marcus Davenport, this is not word for word, but it's basically the exact same word for word. The only issue with Marcus Davenport is keeping him on the field for 17 games. Calvin Shepard stood up in front of the media and
he's
said
a real one, though. Yeah.
So like, Brad obviously is going to be like, he's just never healthy, so we got to get someone. No, Brad's going to stick up for those guys, but Calvin is going to tell you how it is. He's the one that he's the one in that room every single day, and he was honest. Hey, the one thing we have to figure out is how to keep him healthy. And you know what I like about that, boys? Klotz, you played at Tiffin. I don't know if they did this at Tiffin, but in the NFL, you're sitting there and you're going, these guys look at, how can we keep this guy healthy for a full 17 games? That's why Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery split carries.
And playoffs, too.
Yeah, it's because, and Klotz, I know you said, hey, Jahmyr's going to get all these carries. Guess what? As much as we want him to, I can guarantee you he's not going to. I can guarantee you it's going to be 60-40 again, because they want the man to be healthy. So I kind of like that those guys think about it like that as well.
Well, I have the clip here, him talking about Tyleek. So let's.
Sorry, I got juiced up about
being
that.
Like an Aleem McNeil Jr.
Yeah. There a lot of similarities. Just the more you dive into his game, the thing about Aleem, when he came out in 21, he was probably tilted more nose tackle, but you saw this dancing bear in him, that there was a 3 technique inside of him. And now, at this point, he's shed weight, he's got his body right, and now he is a 3 technique, where Tyleek actually is probably, when you kind of compare both of them coming out, Tyleek is probably a little bit more developed than Aleem was coming out. So, but there are very similar players, because Tyleek's got some movement skills in him. He's got quickness. He can move laterally. He can bend. He's stout versus a double team. And not only do they, like, player-wise compare very well, but, like, even personality. Like,
that's a good thing.
They're kind of the same, kind of just mild manners, good kids, kind of soft-spoken, smart. Really handled their business, man. I'll never forget when we had drafted Aleem. I was like, "Hey, man, you ready to be a Lion?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, man. It's all good."
It's pretty.
Like, man, do you really want to? But then when we gave him his contract extension last year, and when we got the deal done, I called him and I was just like, "Hey, man, congratulations, got it done." And he sounded like, "Man, I really appreciate you guys believing." I mean, like, he was, and I told him, I said, "Aleem, you sound exactly like how you sounded when we drafted you, dude."
Yeah.
And Tyleek, has very, very similar personality traits to him.
Well, that's great, and it's probably Aleem probably.
So before before we all start getting into the, can I, Klotzy, you were the first man to publicly. Now, I don't know what happened privately. Maybe Brad's been talking about the Aleem comp for a while. But on our draft show, you said he's Aleem McNeil. And then Brad's been saying that literally ever since, how he's Aleem McNeil. What did you see so early in the dude, man? What made you think that right away?
I mean, we watch Aleem McNeil play on Sundays, but as an
And he's
Ohio
a
State
Buckeye.
Buckeyes fan, I like watching the Ohio State Buckeyes beat some ass on Saturdays.
Wait. Rewind. As a what fan?
North Carolina Tar Heels fan for 2025, an Ohio State Buckeyes fan in 2024, and a supporting fan from afar in 2025. You watch the game and you're like, oh, this guy's got some juice to him. Getting pressure to the inside, but yet you see the edges. JTT, Jack Sawyer, they're getting all the production. But when you look at the guy, not saying this is Aleem with Detroit because Hutch is on another level, but when you see a guy causing havoc on the inside that's big, but yet you watch his feet and they're light and he's able to move off the ball quickly, it's like, wow, this guy can really do it all. You're not going to stick him out on the edge, but on the inside, he can do everything that you ask him for all 3 downs. And now is it a little bit bigger? Yeah, he could probably lose a couple pounds, but Tyleek, I mean, that was year 1 in Ohio State. And now you watch him and he loses weight and becomes better pass rusher consistently. Yeah, he wasn't getting 5 sacks like he was as a freshman, but you're seeing him every game, pretty much every snap. He's the guy who gets double teamed. He's the guy who gets double teamed, and he's creating pressure and he's kicking these quarterbacks out. And when you see him doing that at Ohio State, when you look at the Big Ten, they might not be right up there with the SEC as far as NFL talent, but they are not far behind. When you look at Michigan, Ohio State, even Minnesota, they pump out talent all the time at Penn State at the offensive line. And you look at who he's gone up against in the playoffs multiple times against Notre Dame, Georgia. He's played in big games for a long time and been just consistent. And he doesn't have an injury problem. And when you watch him, like Brad's right, when it's like when you watch interviews of him in college, like calm dude, pretty chill guy. But when you watch him on the football field, dude, he's a fucking menace. You see Tyleek Williams comes out. When Tyleek Williams gets a sack, I promise you he's going to find Kirby Joseph. He's going to find Alex Anzalone, and those boys are going to be nuts because he just plays with his hair on fire. And when you're looking for a young interior defensive lineman just to create havoc, that's what you want. When we saw Aleem against the Dallas Cowboys, when we saw him in kind of his breakout game against the New York Giants, we're going to see those type of moments with Tyleek, but he's going to be right next to Aleem, and he's going to be alongside Aiden Hutchinson, and that's when you're going to see this defensive line just completely take over and look like a Super Bowl defensive line. When Tyleek hits his prime, I think year 2 or 3, this defensive line is going to be very, very scary, especially if Ahmed's peaking too.
I mean, this dude, watching that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, think about just year in and year out, the talent that Notre Dame has on that offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, look at this clip of him just absolutely dominating a play right here at 91. Look at this, double teamed, and he still just absolutely stuffs the run. I mean,
bendability, bendability, as you say, Hefe, just knows how to keep his leverage because he's just a fucking. He's just I don't know that, like just a brick shit house. Like you're not moving him. You're not. He's there to stay. He's there to stay.
It's a brick shit house. I mean. Oh yeah, I am fired up. I'm fired up about Tyleek, man. I think he's DJ. He's obviously like DJ Reader's replacement, but I don't know, Boone. I don't know. We had this discussion already, the 4 sacks thing. I mean, I said 4-ish, 5 sacks. I got some heat for it. I did. I said second.
No, I think 4 was the one that we're all like agreed on. For Tyleek?
Yeah.
You might be thinking of a different player.
He was like, I'll go 3.5.
I think we might be talking about a different player. I said I wouldn't be shocked if you had 4.
Okay, then we agree there. But
my thing with Tyleek all along, and like when we had this conversation, was I think the great and positive thing of Tyleek Williams and his play is one, his run stop, like Klotz said, like you're not moving him. You will not. And you're not running up the middle on Tyleek, and especially if you have Tyleek and Aleem out there at one time, or DJ Reader. And then also to me, it's like even in the pass game when you're pass rushing, he's probably going to get double teamed. If you're double teaming him, guess who's one-on-one? Hutch or someone else. Like, it just, to me, I don't look at him as someone that's going to go out there and get you $1 million. Like, I look at Aleem McNeil as someone who should go out there and potentially get you 7, 8. Right away, I don't look at Ty Lake to go out there and get 7 or 8. I think it's just a little different. I think Kenny at some point in his career, yeah, but like year one, it's just, that's not his, like, he's not a pure pass rusher. That's not his number one thing. His number one thing is run stopping and taking on double teams in the pass game, right? Like that was my point earlier on when we did draft him. That's his kind of 1A, 1B. And then his number 2, that's second best thing he's good at is pass rushing. And he can do that. It's not that he can't do that. So I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, if he had 4 his rookie year, I'm not going to sit here and be shocked about it. I would say 3.5, 4. Yeah, I think that's a good number.
Brad also talked about the staff, which I'm excited to hear this clip. The new coordinators. Let's hear what Brad had to say about that.
Yeah,
this is good.
Look, first of all, I give Dan so much credit just for, you kind of had an idea that Ben and AG were going to be gone, but I don't think we were prepared for all of the guys that got poached. And I give Dan so much credit for just staying patient and not just trying to chase and fill and filling under the gun and under pressure. Like, he stayed patient and he was so much on about fit. And he ended up, doing a really nice job, and we got some really good coaches. But, there's always news, but we're not as worried about it just because of who we were able to get and who we were able to play in. So, like, right. Kelvin Shepherd, man, he's been groomed since 2021, right up under AG, to eventually be in this spot. So we have a lot of confidence in him. And then Johnny Morton, he was with us previously when really the offense was literally built, in 22. So there's familiarity there. And then, being able to get a David Shaw, as passing game coordinator, being able to get a Tashard Choice,
I saw that.
Yeah, man.
Tashard Choice is my guy, Brad. We ACC brothers, 40 years old, both of us.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We were in all the same, all-star stuff and all-American
stuff.
That's
right, man. That was right, man. Like, Choice, man, he was a great get. So we were able to get some really good coaches. So we're not. I know on the outside it looks like, oh man, like, what are you gonna do? But it's not all that much different than what we've been doing. And I do think that, we lost some great coaches, but we were able to fill those guys in with some great ones as well.
Well, I think
he's not worried at all.
All right. No, come on now. You guys can't tell me this.
Bless you, Klotz.
You can't tell me that you watch that and you're not a little less like, okay.
No, because he's not the coach.
Yeah, but Brad Holmes is a guy who obviously he's not being like, I want this guy. It's Dan's job. But you can't tell me that Brad isn't in that building every day. He is at every practice. He is out there working. He sees everything. He's watching players. He's watching coaches. He's confident in the fact of what they brought in. This is what I'll say. And this is what I took out of this. And whether you guys agree or not, and whether the chat agrees or not, listen, at the end of the day, yes, you have different coordinators in there. You had 2 coordinators get head coaching jobs. Guess what that means? That means that there are good coaches. You're losing good coaches. Is there going to be a little bit of a difference? Yes, there is. There's going to be a difference. But how far is that gap is the question. And I think to go win a Super Bowl, it's, hey, is that gap farther apart? You saw the Eagles when they brought in their new coordinators and they were kind of in-house hires. You saw that gap was very, very far apart when it came push to shove in the middle of the season towards down the stretch in the playoffs. I think as we start hearing more and as you start hearing the players talk about it and Dan talk about it and the coordinators talk and now Brad address it, I think that gap is smaller than what we might think, because I'll say this. I was with you guys at one point too, where I was like, this is like, there's a question mark on this, which I still think there is. So I don't think that side of things, the question mark. And I know one of you are going to go on a tangent about it. I don't want to hear the tangent about it because I already know what you're going to say. We've said it 100 times. But my point isn't that. It's that, hey, this gap that we keep pushing and saying, hey, this is going to be a tough gap. I just think it's a lot closer than what it seems to be, because one, and I didn't clip this part, Brad multiple times said in this interview, hey, Johnny Morton was a part, again, what we've kind of said, but reiterating, hey, this guy was a part of building the foundation of this offense. And number two, Kelvin Shepherd. It's not like, in the Eagles DC, when they brought him up a couple years ago, I don't know how long he was even in that building for. Kelvin Shepherd, like, these guys admitted, and Brad said it on the show today, he admitted, we've been grooming Kelvin Shepherd since 2021 for 4 or 5 years. So this isn't like just hey, this guy's been in here, we don't know if he's going to be good or not. No, they've been like grooming him to be the defensive coordinator for 4+ years now. So you have two guys that, one, know the foundation of your offense, and two, know the foundation of your defense, and they've been preparing to become the DC for 4 seasons. I think that gap might be smaller than most people think. And I don't know. It should give you a little bit more confidence. Obviously, no one has to have full confidence in it, and I don't either. I still want to see it on the field. But based off of that, gap is smaller than it appears to be. It's like in those mirrors. Hey, the object is closer than it appears to be. That's what I think about this.
This is where I'm not going to go on a tangent.
Yeah, I don't want to hear those tangents, like the same thing we heard a million times. Like, geez.
But is this a fair question? Everything you said about Calvin makes me feel better. The one thing that does make me a little skeptical in John Morton, even though I do agree. Well, it's not even an agree. It's a fact that he was a part of this offense already. So it is good to have.
Built the foundation.
But then why hasn't he been an OC the last 6 years?
I think listen, again, I think that's a good question. I wouldn't say 6 years. He was here in 2021, so it's 4 years.
No, I'm saying why? Like, he's been in the NFL since he's been in the NFL for a while, but his most recent, he's been in the NFL in this stint since 2011.
That's part of the gap. That's part of the gap that we all sit there and go, why? What's going to happen?
Yeah, and
that's part of the gap.
Yeah, that's where I am like, my gears are turning. I'm like, okay,
just fair.
Why hasn't he been an OC more than once? And he's been in the NFL for a while. And he's been, again, I'm not saying that the guy isn't respected among some great offensive coaches, but why has he always just been an offensive assistant? Some guys do better. It's like in any workplace. Some guys do better as like they're up there, but they're not like the guy.
Wait. Can both be true? Some guys are better off doing that. Some guys also, in certain moments, don't want to be in that position.
So why now?
Because it was the right opportunity. It was somewhere that he's comfortable with. Dan Campbell. Think about this, Jeff. If you're, let me. This is a serious question.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're a former head coach and you step away from a job, or say you get fired, and you go, man, I'm just going to get a head coaching job next year. And there are coaches who do this in every single sport, and they just go from job to job, fired. How does that look on your resume? Except outside of, if you're a head coach and you get fired, and hey, I'm Dan Quinn, I just got fired from the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to go become a DC. I'm not going to be a head coach again for a little while. I'm going to go become a DC, and I'm going to go be a defensive coordinator, and I'm going to do what I can for 4 or 5 years until the right opportunity approaches itself or approaches you. And when that comes about, Washington Commanders, I'll take the opportunity to go run with it. But why would I rush into another job if there's potential that I get fired or it goes bad again? And now my career as a whole, until I retire, I have that hanging over my head. So I think it might be a situation where John Morton's just like, nothing's really approached. Like, and for him, it's different because he wasn't a head coach. He was an OC. So a step down from an OC, if you don't get another job, is pass game coordinator, this thing, and now offensive assistant. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I look at potentially what happened there is gets fired from New York, goes about a different jobs, comes to Detroit at one point, helps build this offense, builds trust with Dan, goes out and becomes an offensive assistant. And you know what I'm saying? Like Tanner Engstrand, what was he over the last few years?
Yeah, but
I get it, but there are guys who go from pass. I know, but that I get what you're saying, but there are guys who you can't just be an OC every year and just keep getting fired or having being good or being bad. Just because he had a different job doesn't mean he's not good at a job.
But you agree with that? Like he was with the Raiders for 4 years. And he was only an offensive assistant. Like he never got promoted. He was now. I will tell you this. I will give him credit. He was a senior offensive assistant, so they trusted him.
It's just different spots. I don't look at. I do look at that. I see what you're saying, but I don't take that full because I do know in the business there are situations to where it's I don't want to take this job. I'm not getting offered this job. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough spot, and it's still if you don't have connections certain places, you're not going to get opportunities. And he took the places he had connections with. I get what you're saying though. Like you would have liked to see him be an OC.
That's where I'm curious. Like I want to see how I really want to. I'm more intrigued by John Morton. I'm more confident in Calvin Shepard. If I'm being honest, that's where
I've
done a 180 on that. I've done a complete 180 on that. I've become more confident in Calvin Shepard. He's won me over.
I think the thing with Calvin, I think the fact that they prepared him for years really makes me comfortable, and I like Calvin Shepard too. I just the John Morton. Go ahead, like you guys can.
Is that fair, Klotz? Like the point I bring up with I know you think it's fair.
Klotz hates John Morton.
I've been consistent on. I'm more confident in Kelvin because I think what made Aaron Glenn so good was the fact that he had to deal with so much early on in his career that now when he gets a little bit of talent, he understands how to not lose games. We saw so many times the Lions would be in a game in the fourth quarter, it would just fall apart, whether it was from Justin Tucker knocking the longest field goal in NFL history, or it was just a chunk by chunk drive where, it's Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. You can be beating them for a while, but in the fourth quarter at Ford Field, they're finally going to find a way to take over. And you saw on full display, Week 18, division on the line, NFC conference on the line as far as seeding goes. That defense suffocated Sam Darnold, and we've never seen that before, especially with no Aiden Hutchinson. So when I see Kelvin Shepard right next to Aaron Glenn during all of that, I not saying that he knows what to do, but he has a little bit more insight, in my opinion, seeing these guys on the field during those play calls, what they're doing, what Aaron Glenn's adjusting. He's been right there the whole time. Now, John Morton was there, to your point, Booner, on building the foundation, but he doesn't have that same perspective. So I think that John Morton's going to be good. Yeah, I think that John Morton's going to be good. My question for both of these guys, though, is not can they be good, but can they be on a Super Bowl level of a play calling in year one? Because we went through the defensive coordinators as far as who's been on the sidelines for them and the teams that win the Super Bowl. I'm sure if you go through the OCs, it's going to be the same type of conversation, whether it's the head coach, the offensive coordinator, there's an elite play caller. And it does matter because they're surrounded with talent. There's no denying that. But there's a lot of those situations, especially when you look at the elite teams where it's, great play caller. And then, he's got elite talent on the sideline or on the field for him as well. So I do have more confidence in Kelvin. And I think that John Morton's going to be solid at the bare minimum. I think it's hard to fail with this offense. But the only thing we're going to be able to tell is week one against the Packers in a big game, how are they going to handle that? Because the line should be favorited. But at the same time, and I'm saying, Boone, my point
is,
you
got to give them 6-7 weeks
on the field. It's going to take but I'm saying we're not going to be able to judge anything until we actually see it. And
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
I'm not saying you're going to see what these guys.
I'd say even until halfway through the season, I think about week 7, week 8, you get to a point where you're like, okay, now you know what this defense is, this offense is. Is there an issue? If there is, that's when you start evaluating, in my opinion. I think we can all agree, bottom line, at the end of the day with this. And Klotz, I'm glad to hear you're like, hey, I think he can at least be good with them. I think the gap that might get displayed right now with those new coordinators because of the big jump of last year's guys, I think the gap is smaller than people think. You know what I mean? I do think that there's a world where maybe people I think there's people out there who think John Morton's going to fail miserably. I really do.
Anthony Lynn-esque.
Yeah, I think people are looking at Johnny Morton and like, what is this guy going to do? I think it's hard with the offense that you have. And if you already had, my biggest thing, and I think it was if you didn't have a relationship with Jared Goff, I think it's hard to be able to know because I think that's the biggest piece to all of this is knowing what is Jared Goff comfortable with. What plays does he like? Like what fits Jared Goff? I think the fact that John Morton spent the whole season with him and an offseason and Ben Johnson, he was in a room with them for 12 months. You know what I mean? Like at that point, like John Morton knows everything that went on. He knows how Ben Johnson's mind worked. Obviously, that's not his mind. And he knows what Jared Goff likes and is comfortable with. So I think that fact kind of makes it okay. If people are saying that John Morton's going to fail, he's going to, like you said, Klotz, they're at least going to be good offensively. They're going to be top 10 no matter what. Now, it's the Super Bowl. Can they become a top 5 offense like they were the last 2 years? And then can that defense live up to that as well?
Boone, and I'm saying I do not want this to turn into an argument. This is like a genuine like conversation here. Because my pushback to the gap thing is because I don't think they're going to be failing. So whatever that gap is, I don't think that's there. But I look at it, you can use it both for AG and Ben Johnson. Both of those guys were at their coaching peak. I think maybe not last year. I think honestly the year before for Ben, he looked at his best. But we saw Ben Johnson skyrocket as far as his stock. And it was like peak Ben Johnson, peak Aaron Glenn. And now you're probably going to get, and it's not even like bad to say, you're going to get the lowest version of Kelvin Shepherd and probably the lowest version of Johnny Morton with the Detroit Lions because it's year one. So that's where, when I look at the gap, like not saying that both these guys can't be good, but you're replacing, at least in the last couple of years, the best play callers, if not the best, but some of the best play callers that were in the league. And now you're going to first.
Yeah, I don't think just in the NFL personally, like I don't think just because you're a first year guy, you're automatically the worst at your. Like I think that these guys can improve by the time the playoffs come around. If
that's
they're
what
legit,
I'm saying,
if they're legit, they're
like,
fine.
When you look at,
I guess I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, so when you look at John Morton's career, what it's going to be for the Detroit Lions as far as a play caller, I think by year 3, he's going to be a lot better than he is in year 1. Same thing to go with Kelvin Shepherd, like AG and Ben Johnson were, because I think obviously they're going to improve. So this year, it's probably going to be their toughest year as coordinators compared to Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Those guys were peaking, in my opinion.
They had the benefit of learning while the team was bad. You know what I mean?
I think just having the roster that they have in hand.
There's more pressure, obviously. There's more pressure.
But I think that you also have the skills. You have all the players to do it. So I don't think, like, to me, I'm not going to, like, I think at that point, then, Klotz, like, these guys shouldn't be held accountable for this year at all because it's their year 1. But I think they should be. Like, you're coming into a Super Bowl contending team. Like, I don't think Dan would have hired these guys if he thought, hey, these guys are starting from the beginning. They're not going to be able to get to a point to win a Super Bowl year 1. I think that he thinks Kelvin legitimately can. Obviously, he's a rookie coordinator. I think he thinks Kelvin can step up, and by the time the playoffs come around, he's going to have a good defense, and he's going to be running at a high level. I really do believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, John's a little more experienced than Ben, so I think he'll have that advantage. Calvin is not as experienced as AG, but he's been with AG, so I think that'll help him as well. So, but there it is. There's more pressure. It's all across the board, more pressure, because they are a Super Bowl contender. It's not like,
okay. Can I ask another analogy real quick, Jeff?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ben Johnson stepping in his year 1, which was what was it? Was it year 2 in the regime?
Yeah,
Take 2 separate scenarios. Say a rookie Ben Johnson OC steps in 2025, and a rookie Ben Johnson steps in 2022. Who has more success?
You said a rookie Ben Johnson steps. Well, obviously the talent, yes.
Okay, that's my point with it. Is I see what you're saying, Klotz. Like, it might take time, but I think the position they're stepping into.
They didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs.
It is a night and day difference of being like, hey, their year 3 to year 1. Like, their year 1 should be Super Bowl. And it's like, all right, now your year 3 should be Super Bowl as well. And like it's a different position to step in. It's more pressure. It's harder. But
hey, you know what I'm excited for today, Boone? I want this is the first time we've ever done Boone around the NFL. Yeah, I mean, this is where Boone's going to take us around the NFL and talk to us about trending things that are occurring in the league, and we're going to give our thoughts on them because there are stuff that is happening constantly. I mean, we didn't even really talk much about Aaron Rodgers joining the Steelers, didn't really give it much attention, but there's so much shit going on right now, Boone.
There is. I'll say this. Can we get some music for it?
Oh, absolutely, we can get some music for it. Hold on. Let me get some. Hold on.
Lock in, Boone.
Come on. Hold on. Let me get you. Oh yeah, hold on, Boone. What do we got, Boone?
All right, here we go. First thing, Antonio. I'm just kidding. No, that was earlier.
Antonio Brown.
That was breaking news earlier. I'll say this though, real quick. I know there's been some OTAs and stuff over the last 24 hours. I did do that around the NFL for a day ago, so I don't know if all of this is completely up to date, but it should be pretty up to date here. If I'm missing any breaking news today, boys, feel free to throw it out there after I'm done. But I have 6 topics around the NFL for us to talk about today, boys. First one, I think this is the biggest news currently in the NFL, and Klotz and I actually talked about it yesterday. So really, Jeff, this one's going to be for you. Shamar Stewart holding out of the Cincinnati Bengals. Klotz and I had the conversation about it feels like the Bengals are kind of screwing him. I don't know if you've seen the full thing, Jeff. Actually, there was new news today on it. Is Shamar Stewart actually has left mandatory mini camp and said, I'm just not going to be here anymore. Originally, he was showing up and doing film sessions and he was doing all of that. He just wasn't doing on-field work. At this point now, it's really all it is, Jeff. It's just one thing inside of his contract. And I don't blame Shamar Stewart for sitting out. If I was him, I would sit out. But they're kind of screwing him. They're trying some new rookie deal with him that they've never done before with any other rookies. And this younger agent caught it and they tried to slip it by his agent without him knowing. And he caught it. And Shamar is saying, all you have to do is change this simple thing in my contract, which is the void years, and I'll be on the field for you. What are your thoughts on that? I'll go Jeff. Klotz and I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, I'm fully on Shamar Stewart's side. It's ridiculous. The Bengals have a bad reputation as it is when it comes to money. We've seen that play out over the last couple of years. Well, more than the last couple of years. It's really been the Bengals as a whole. But I'm on the side of Shamar Stewart, man. Give him the same contract you've given to other first-round picks. It's very obvious. Why are you trying to play hardball with a player you drafted and you believe in and a player that you do need? Like they're losing Trey Hendrickson. This battle with Trey, like they're going to have to trade him. We already know where that's heading to. They need Shamar Stewart bad. And now the other side of it is I don't think Shamar should, like, you know how they say the report he could enter next year's draft. Like, I don't think that should happen because you're not guaranteed to go as high as he did this year. But yeah, I'm on Shamar Stewart's side, man. The Bengals, stop playing around. Just take care of the game. I mean,
you said they're trying to win arguments, not games.
That's a crazy comment to say.
Do you think it has anything to do with the risk of the draft pick that he is?
No,
like, you know
I think it's just Bengals being cheap. I don't.
If it's the first time that this has been in a rookie contract in the first round, then the Bengals need to just.
It's embarrassing.
They need to hang it up
Grab
and just.
The idea.
Yeah. I mean, all right, good try. You tried it, and you looked stupid. Move on.
It's
that's how I look at it.
It's fully on the Bengals. I'm not gonna go at Shamar. There's nothing to go at Shamar Stewart for. So.
No, I don't think so. I at all. I saw someone in the chat say Shamar should also practice, but the Bengals are done. I don't think Shamar should practice. I think I would sit out the whole time. Now I don't know what happens with that draft thing. I know there is that. I saw that today. He could sit out, enter the draft next year. I don't know. They kind of screwed him. Like, why draft him if you knew you were going to do this? And
yeah.
It puts a kid who's trying to live out his NFL dream and get generational wealth for his family, and it's just such a bad spot, man. Like, you're ruining his.
Where it's like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, you're the Bengals, dude. Like, you should give this kid anything like you don't have a lot of leverage right now.
That's your leverage for Trey Hendrickson too. It's like we got Shamar ready to go. Like, we might not need you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as well too, just for clarity, if Lions fan, he should be on a rookie contract. He is on a rookie deal. It's not the money that's the problem, it's the void years, to where if something happens to him or something goes on, I don't know if I'm not sure on the full extent of it. I think it might be injuries and different things to where they're able to void some of his years. And I think they were trying to do every single year, add void years on everyone or something.
Well,
I don't know.
In this comment, like he says, he can get redrafted. He could technically sit out a year and enter next year's draft. He could.
It's tough though,
which would be insane.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right, next one. Is the music on?
Yeah.
There it is. All right, next one here. I was going to do the Trey Hendrickson thing. How do you guys feel about that? Just quick. This is a really quick around the horn.
Just trade the guy, dude. Trade the guy. You're not going to be able to pay him. You already paid T. Higgins. Trade
him, Klotz.
I would say they got to find a way to re-sign him.
They can't. They don't have the money.
You find a way. It'd be like the Lions. It'd be like the Lions in a holdout with Aiden Hutchinson.
I would have signed Trey Hendrickson and let T. Higgins walk.
I agree.
Or trade him on the franchise tag.
Yeah, they have some good wide receivers.
If they're not willing to give Shamar Stewart a contract, they will not trade Trey Hendrickson. If they haven't done it already.
And that's a fair thing. People have to understand. Teams have to understand this. It's more of a PR thing too with some of these things. Like PR wise, that's a tough look. You know what I mean?
Players aren't going to want to go there. Yesterday. Free agents aren't going to want to go there. That's the problem. All right, next one here. Nick Chubb. Yeah. I know you guys all saw this. Signed a 1-year deal worth $2.5 million and can be worth up to $5 million with incentives with the Houston Texans. Nick Chubb, boys, and Joe Mixon, outside of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, probably the second best backfield in the NFL now.
I think Bijan and Tyler Algier are up there. But production-wise, I think Houston's going to be – I know there's concern about their offensive line, but I think Houston's going to be really good this year. I don't know about Super Bowl contenders because of that offensive line, but, they were supposed to have a star-studded team last year, fell apart. This whole roster, offensive line, they let go of players. They let go of the offensive line coach. Took my guy, Ariante Ursary. But you look at that defense. That defense is going nowhere. So how do you keep C.J. Stroud – uptight against a possible shaky offensive line? You hand the ball off to Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. I don't think Nick Chubb's going to be running for 1,200 yards, but I think if he stays healthy, he can give them an extra anywhere from 600 to 800, 8 to 10 touchdowns, and Joe Mixon around 1,000. But I'm with you. It's one of the best running back duos up there. And I think with a weak offensive line, that helps everything. In a weak division with the AFC South, when you have Jacksonville, who could be something, but then you look at Tennessee with Cam Ward year one, no. Indianapolis, no. This helps. Having a good run games helps shut those games out.
Jeff, how do we think? What do you think about it?
Chubb, I think, dude, the Texans signing Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's going to be really good, dude. I know Xavier D says he's washed. He's not. I don't know, man. I think Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon is a hell of a backfield. You could argue the injury, so I would still say Lions because I think Jameer's better. I would take Jahmyr over Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon. He had a good stretch last year, but then he kind of fell off. David Montgomery's not too far behind. I think it's close. But man, the Texans signing him is a great. I was surprised he went to the Texans. If I'm being honest.
Me too. I was shocked.
I think there was probably, but if you're Nick Chubb, you're thinking, hey, I get to split carries and I get to play for a, no state tax.
He's going to win a division.
Coming off too, just that injury, just not being able to have to be like, hey, I'm going to go out there and get 1 million carries, another 200 carries plus this year, to where it's like I'll just take 150 and split a backfield. That helps his knee heal up a little bit more. I think Nick Chubb's going to be. I'm not going to say he's going to be back to what he was, but I think he can get. I don't know how close to it, but I think it's like you're going to be like, wow, how did they get Nick Chubb? Like this guy is still right back to where he. You're going to see, I think, spurts of old Nick Chubb before the injury. To be honest,
I think he'll be fresh. He's not going to be a workhorse. Like I think he's going to be really good for Houston.
And I like Joe Mixon, dude. Joe Mixon's very underrated. People don't talk about Joe Mixon enough. That guy is Joe Mixon is legit, dude. I like Joe Mixon. Next one here. This one is interesting to me. I don't know what's going on in Atlanta, but with Kirk Cousins, we talked about this a couple months ago when this whole Kirk Cousins saga was going around, to where they are refusing to trade or release Kirk Cousins and let him go play somewhere else. I'm in my opinion, I don't think Kirk Cousins is as bad as he was last year. He played in 14 games, and I think coming off an Achilles, you saw with Aaron Rodgers, and you see it with most quarterbacks off an Achilles, is that year one after an Achilles, that back foot, or if that's your back foot or the foot that you tear it on, there's always a get back with it, and it takes time. I think Kirk Cousins is IQ. I think he can still sling it if he's healthy now this year. I kind of feel bad for the guy that Atlanta's kind of just holding him hostage there, and they're just saying, "Hey, we're keeping you as our backup. You signed with us." I think that's wrong. I don't know where you guys are with this, but dude, I think he could go somewhere and actually compete to be a starter.
I agree. I think it goes back to what I said kind of about the Bengals. Sometimes sometimes when you make moves like like the situation the Falcons are in, they have Michael Penix, who they love, and he's the franchise, and you have Kirk Cousins. Sometimes it's worth eating the money, but it's better PR. Like it's good for players to see you. If Kirk Cousins is unhappy and you let him go, I get both sides, but if I was the Falcons, I would say, you know what? It sends a good message to our players if we let Kirk go and hit free agency, because let's be real here. Like, Kirk is at a point in his career, he doesn't have that much time left. Like,
no,
you're doing him a disservice, and you're sending a bad message to other types of, and it could happen at other positions as well. Older players that come play and they get, benched.
You're essentially ending his career.
Yeah, you're going to just basically waste his career in Atlanta. It's tough. I don't agree with it either. I think, honestly, he might have came back a little too early, too.
Agreed.
So there's that. He was kind of rushed back. I don't think he was rushed back. Maybe he just came back. He wanted to play. I get it. But yeah, he didn't look like Kirk Cousins.
You guys remember those
when he went
videos of him on his back foot and he like couldn't put pressure on it?
Oh,
and they were like, he can't throw. And then people were doing like breakdowns. And then they were looking at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron was kind of similar, but then people started looking at like old quarterbacks with Achilles. And they're like, the first year after an Achilles, quarterbacks tend to try and come back and they can't. And then the next year they kind of get fully back. I think Kirk is, I mean, obviously we can't see him at practice, but
he would be with Cleveland because Kevin Stefanski. He has a relationship with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, but if you got to think too, like if you're Kirk, to your guys' point, at the end of your career, you're making good money in Atlanta. I do think they end up moving him, but at some point in training camp, early on in the season, a quarterback is going to go down, and the first person there is going to be calling is Atlanta. And Kirk has a no trade clause regardless. So I'm sure they could have been like, hey, Cleveland, you want him? Kirk's probably like, I love Stefanski. I have no desire to go play in 20-degree weather coming off a torn Achilles 2 years ago in the middle of December to go 4-13. Do I want to go to New Orleans? Absolutely not. I look at their offensive line. It's getting better, but outside of that, there's not much to work with. Like as far as winning division, wait till a better situation opens up and it'll be like, hey, I want to go there. If Michael Penix is balling out, which I think he could this year, and they'll move off and they'll get value for him. But I just
like the Indy though. I like the Indy pick.
The problem is though with that, Klotz, is I agree with you that you would wait, but the problem is he's requested a trade. He said I want out, and he requested it months ago. He's wanted to leave Atlanta before camp. So but like you're saying, like you request it. If someone goes down, you tell them. Like I don't think it. Like at this point, Atlanta hasn't tipped their hat at all to being like, even if a quarterback goes down, we'll trade you there. They're like, no, we are not trading you anywhere. You are staying as our backup. I think that's what the problem is right now.
If
they're not willing to budge.
But I just think from the other side too, like if you're an NFL team, do you really want Kirk Cousins right now, especially like pre-draft?
I think Indy.
I thought for a minute, Minnesota. JJ wasn't ready. I thought Minnesota was going to bring him back
because Indy has Anthony Richardson got hurt again.
No, so, hey, bro, I'm telling you.
I said the same thing, Klotz. Daniel Jones is going to have a big year.
Joe Flacco.
Daniel Jones is going to have a big year.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Jones, I don't know if it's to the same peak because there's not as much talent, but he's going to have
like
Arnold.
Yes, Klotz. Yes. He's going to have that year. I've been saying that for months.
We were talking when he signed to Minnesota. I was like,
20 TDs and 9 picks.
I think when you look at, for example, Josh Downs.
He's going to have a good year. He's going to have a good year.
His offensive line play has always been terrible. He's had Brian Dable there, but there's just been nothing as far as weapons on the outside. He has 3 or 4, like Adonai Mitchell, going to be good this year. That defense, it's going to be all right. That's why I don't think it's going to be Sam Darnold, but Daniel Jones is going to earn himself some money going into next year. He'll be a starter in the NFL again after this year.
All right, last one here, and then we'll do mailbag. Make sure right now I'll put the thing in there. Make sure drop some mailbag questions. We'll do mailbag for like 10 minutes here. Last one, though. I want to get you guys' thoughts. We haven't talked about this at all because we've been doing a lot of Lions, Tigers, and Pistons. Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm interested in your guys' thoughts on this, how this will end. I'll just give you guys my quick thoughts, and then I'll hand the floor over to you guys. I think they're going to, and this is going to sound crazy, Mike Tomlin's had them in the playoffs the last 4 or 5, almost every single year with Mason Rudolph, all these. They're going to be in the playoffs. I'm interested to see. I think the big storyline is how is Aaron Rodgers going to be performing in the playoffs? Is he going to have another weapon outside of DK Metcalf? How's Caleb Johnson look? Like I think there's going to be question marks. I don't think there's a question if they make the playoffs, but I'm interested to see how Aaron Rodgers looks after this whole Jets debacle.
I'm going to tell you this right now. They're going to go 8-9, 9-8.
Yeah, 9
And Mike Tomlin's going to be fired. That's how it's going to go.
I hate that for my guy, man.
And I love Mike Tomlin, but I think at some point the Steelers organization, they're at a fork in the road. They're refusing to accept the fact they need to rebuild. What the Steelers should be doing, is number one, you not signing Aaron Rodgers. Number two, tank and go draft a quarterback. Like, just roll out with Mason Rudolph, win 5 games, go draft a QB. They're just going to stay in this, top 15 to 20 pick every year, never draft a quarterback, and be mediocre. And it's unfortunate because I love Tomlin, but it's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? And he deserves blame in that too. It's like, I get it. It's hard. It sucks. You don't want to go through a season with Mason Rudolph, but
he's going to make the play. They're going to make the playoffs.
Come on.
The fact that you got Aaron Rodgers signed in camp and TJ Watt is holding out, I just think it's at some point there's going to be an end. There's going to be an end. And I think if there's any year that it is, it would be this year. This upcoming year.
To what?
To the playoff run. Where at some point, I think the AFC North for a really long time has been that toughest division in the AFC and honestly in football. And NFC North's up there, but I think there's going to be emergence of the AFC West where you're going to get the Chiefs, you're going to get the Broncos, you're going to get the Chargers. I think the Ravens are winning the North. And I know we're talking about Cincy's defense, but their offense is going to keep them in any game, and just like it was last year pretty much. And the Steelers and Bengals are going to be fighting for it. And that's not talking about Houston's going to be walking out of the South most likely. What if Jacksonville's good? What if there's another sleeper team that's not Pittsburgh that finds a way to get to 9 wins? And
do this every year, Klotz. Every year.
Last year, Boone. Last year,
I was on the Steelers last year as well, but most people every year are like, this is the end. Like, TJ Watt will resign. He'll be re-signed in the next month.
We're talking about the last ride of Aaron Rodgers. We're talking
I
about
think
Metcalf in year 1. They've been training all summer. That's great. But at some point, it's just the NFL is going to pass up everyone.
If George Pickens and Mason Rudolph or Kenny Pickett is good enough to get to the playoffs with that defense, Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. They just have to be at that off. Think it is. Why is it not?
Cam Hayward, Minka
he
Fitzpatrick.
just had the best year of his career.
All these guys are going to get older, and I just think with Aaron Rodgers in that locker room, with DK Metcalf, with all the surrounding noise, I just think they're going to be winning solid games. Like, they're going to be winning some games in the AFC North, but there's just going to be too much. Too much. I just think at some point, Pittsburgh, there's been gas poured on it for a long time. They've been able to make sure that hasn't went up in flames. At some point, it's going to go up in flames. And it won't even have to be like a 5-12 season. It's them missing the playoffs and just being like, we finally got it.
They need a reset. They need a reset bad. Like, bad. And they're refusing to do it. So, at least they trade.
I don't know. I think they're going to be a wild card team again. They just find ways to win, man. That defense keeps them in every game. And now that you actually have a quarterback that just can move the ball instead of just throwing interceptions every possession, I don't see a world where they just don't make the playoffs.
Right?
They're going to win at least 9 games.
Aaron Rodgers sucks, and you want to talk about playoffs.
We're not talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about that defense. Klotz thinks they're getting older. I disagree. That defense Mike Tomlin defense is always going to be good. They always will be.
All right.
All they keep doing is drafting defense. That's all they've done every year.
I'm saying, like,
they draft defense
players. Minka, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt.
These guys had like their best career years last year.
I understand, but we're talking about there's going to be at some point where it's just not enough.
They drafted Derek Harmon.
Derek Harmon would be a solid piece. Their defense is not. I'm not saying their defense is
Slay.
bad.
Oh,
but what I'm saying is, like, they got a lot of
Joey Porter,
old guys out there. A lot of guys that have seen a lot of time, a lot of mileage on the tires.
I mean, Minka's 28.
Minka's 28, but Minka has not been the same Minka that he was. Minka used to be unanimously the best safety in football, the leader in interceptions. That's not Minka anymore. He's a good safety. But, I mean, there's games where
I think that defense, Mike Tomlin defense.
Brian Branch, Buda Baker, Antoine Winfield, before we bring up.
What you're saying, though, is Mike Tomlin defense that has never fallen off in 20 years. there's going to be a year of fall. I just don't see it. I don't see
not a
Mike
fall
Tomlin's-
off, but there'll be a step back at some point.
after
So
20
that'd be
years.
drastic.
Every time that we think that these guys get old, they just find new guys and they keep doing it. We do got to do mailbag,
but at
boys.
some point, even Bill Belichick, at some point it's gonna go down in flames. And you talk about the defense is what keeps them in games. I just think there's a year where they don't have enough on the defensive side of the ball to keep them in games.
Well, Bottle Lie says mailbag. Any possible destinations for Kyler Murray if it doesn't work out in Arizona?
I wouldn't be shocked if he's out of Arizona this year.
Trying to think of a good spot for him. Because I think if Kyler's lands in his spot with talent, he can be.
How about this? Tyler Shuck ends up stinking, in the Saints trade for him.
Yeah, I like that. Kellen Moore be a good one. I think he'd be dangerous with Steichen. He would go to the AFC to go with the Colts. But again, Steichen would probably be gone.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him go somewhere though. It's done in Arizona with
I was
him.
going to say the Jets, but I don't think Aaron Glenn would want Kyler Murray. So never mind.
He's going to get Garrett Nussmeier. He's just going to get your prototypical pro style quarterback. No distraction. Doesn't need to be mobile. Can be mobile, but he's just going to want somebody that doesn't turn the ball over. Aaron Glenn.
All right. Lions fan says, how big of an upgrade do you think DJ Reed is over Carlton Davis? I think it might be more lateral than just.
Yeah, I think the health, but I would say lateral. I think the big step up in the corner room is Terrion Arnold taking a step. That's where I think. Yeah. And then I also think the depth too. I think the depth is a lot better this year now with Amik and Ennis a year or two. Ennis, Rock Ya-Sin, Avante Maddox.
Shout out Rock.
Hey, Ben Blue says AG wants a mobile quarterback. Klotz, Drew Aller makes more sense.
I mean, Drew Aller does make more sense, but I wouldn't classify Drew Aller as a mobile quarterback. He can move.
Jeff would.
He can move.
Well, he's not Lenora Sellers though. He's not that. I'm just
no.
But right now, I don't think he wants a Justin Fields prototype.
It's like these quarterbacks that have the option to move, like Trevor Lawrence. Trying to think of other guys that can.
Joe
move.
Burrow.
Yeah, well, I think he's more mobile than a Joe Burrow, to be honest. Drew Aller,
bro. Joe Burrow ran an 80-yard touchdown this year.
Yeah, but his game, he's not running often. I think Drew Aller at Penn State, he'll scramble, he'll run.
Yeah, but that's Penn State's offense. They've had Trace McSorley, that's what Penn State does.
No, but I'm saying he's not Josh Allen, but he can move. He can move a little bit.
He's got some juice there, yeah. I just don't see Drew Aller as you're talking about as this ultimate dual threat quarterback.
No.
Not even ultimate, but I think of him as a guy that sits back.
What do you think JJ McCarthy is?
JJ McCarthy is, that's a good one. He can move, but JJ McCarthy, there's not going to be design runs for him. Maybe every once in a while, and they do an RPO.
We can agree there. We can agree there. MC3 Houdat says mailbag to the Dolphins need a hard reset. That's another team. That's just mid.
Get rid of Tua, move on.
Yeah, they're in another one. And then Ben Blue says mailbag. Let's say hypothetically that everything that goes wrong, and the Lions end up with a top 5 pick. What position would they take?
What is that again?
If everything goes wrong, hypothetical, they stink. Jared Goff goes down or whatever.
Offensive tackle, in my opinion. You get a top 5 tackle to go with Panay for a long time because
what a weird
Goff,
hypothetical.
No Goff, you're putting in quarterback in a better position.
My brain can't even compute that.
It had to be Goff going down, Boone. And it's still then, I don't know if you're going top 5.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if there's a really high
good
tackle there. What?
I don't
Caleb Downs to replace Brian Branch.
I don't hate the tackle thing, man. I don't hate the tackle thing. You draft that dude out of
Miami. You're not replacing Brian Branch.
I'm saying, we had the convo. If the Jamo
top 5,
you draft a wide receiver to replace Jamo over drafting Josh Downs for Brian Branch.
No, Caleb Downs. Caleb
Downs. I apologize.
The safety from Ohio State.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yes, I know. You draft a wide receiver over. No.
He's going to be a dog.
You're Brian Branch, though. You keep Brian. You keep who's in.
Think he goes top 5?
What is it? Caleb Downs? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The only reason he won't go number 1 is because he's a safety. But he's going to be the best player in the draft.
Yeah. That's fair. Ryan says OT or edge. Yeah, here we go, the Edge thing again.
Edge, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a top 5 pick. Some shit went down. I'll just say that. That's all I'll say. All right, hey, we'll get out of here. We'll be live tomorrow, Friday show, 8 p.m. Be there. And yeah, appreciate you all as always, man. Hey, we had a good show today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, keep up the support. Much love to you all.
Love you guys.
Peace.